don't know me, I'm Nathan Weens, and I have been given the honor of serving as MC this afternoon. So I get to introduce all the rest of the speeches.
Does that mean you keep us on time?
Probably not. No.
Don't start.
Curt keeps at it.
Come on, man. With this group, really? But I hope I would beg your indulgence for just a moment. Today is Veterans Day, which I'm sure everybody knows. So I would like all of the veterans to either raise your hand or stand up, please, just
Stand
for a
up.
moment.
Stand up.
Thank you very much. And I know we've all heard the phrase, thank you for your service. And I know for me, for a long time, I thought it was kind of awkward. So I'm going to put it in hopefully more disambiguated terms. Thank you for having the urge to serve and to stand up and for acting upon that urge. Okay, so moving on with the speakers. Our next speaker is Brandon Hayes, who is the president of the Natural Law Institute, and not only is he a husband and a father, he is also a dog trainer, and I think he's branching off into human training as well. So,
It's not a think, it's that he does.
He's already got the collars.
yeah. But he's going to be talking to us about activism at the family level. So everybody, Brendan Hayes.
Listen to our meetings. Everyone can hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay.
A little closer to the mouth.
Yeah, all right. I don't do microphones or professionalism, but I do authenticity and accountability. A lot of us talk about responsibility, but there are entities that exist that you can't hold accountable should they not take their accountability on children and dogs or like that. So I typically work online, meaning I don't do the social jockeying stuff. It's typically a waste of time, and most people are just signaling what they wish their wealth and worth was, not exactly exhibiting what their actual wealth and worth is. Mm-hmm. I shouldn't have to speak in front of a room and tell them that family is important.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. This is the reality that you guys live in. We are responsible for this reality. We will be held accountable for it should we not make the transformations that are necessary to make. That's why we're all here, right? I was saying I typically work online. I do so to find peers. Everyone complains about division online. There's sortation. You are sorted into your peer group over the media apparatuses. You're not divided. If you are unhappy with how the social commons manifest to you, because that's what social media is, the social commons. It's the largest place where people gather and pass ideas and flash value signals to one another. If you're not comfortable with your place there, or you feel like it's a toxic environment, you can do something about it because it's free. And there are more eyes there if I make a post on social media than there are in this room. And I have to tell you that it was too much of a chore to get people to show up in one place. It's always that way. It's a lot harder to do this in the real than it is to do it digitally. And we have the advantage that digital is faster, it costs you less, and you can risk your reputation as a capital, right? With not much downside, because most people don't take it seriously. I'm attempting to get across the point that you should take it seriously because there's more eyes there than there are here. And you have more influence there than you do in a room like this. This is for building operational networks so that we can get things done. If you want to change perceptions, you have to put your reputation on the line. Otherwise, they don't change because people will think what they've always thought of you. So
Does that mean my life is hopeless?
yes, it does. That's not a general rule, as a specific for Curt. We talk about cooperation all the time, but we actually have to restore compatibility. We don't have any longer because we've androgenized the sexes for so long, and they compete in the same spaces that they don't offer a value exchange to one another worth pursuing. That's an easy thing to change if you just separate them. You separate the kids when they're growing up. You separate the people at work. You separate military from family. They're not the same thing. I don't like having any conversations about the inclusion of people who don't have the ability to be accountable for their actions. You don't put women and children adjacent to violence. Politics is adjacent to violence. And we have mothers that are going to school board meetings playing a political position that fathers should be playing, and they're being labeled terrorists for doing so, right here. But in fact, it happens in this state. It doesn't take that much courage to come someplace and stand up. I know people say it does, but it really doesn't. You can stand in front of a room and talk to people and look at them in the face and just tell them authentically how it is you think they should move through if you know better. And we do. My peers are these people. I brought my family here. Well, my family lives here anyway, but I brought my family here, the people that I picked, or more likely that picked me by being able to put up with me and understand what I'm trying to get at. Yeah. We are working to restore the family as the central political unit. It's the first unit that requires compromise and cooperation. You don't compromise and cooperate with yourself unless you're schizophrenic and have multiple personalities. Which a better way to look at personalities is that you're a personality complex, and you should make sure that they all remain balanced, but that's a talk for a different time. This science sets people apart from human animals. It sets you apart. Choosing is what makes you different from animals. It's agency that makes you different, not consciousness. Dogs have consciousness. I've dealt with dogs a lot. In fact, I was just talking to Sean. I have a problem with repetition because I've repped so many.
Is Sean a dog or a person?
No, Sean's a person. I don't talk to dogs other than to give them commands. That's one thing I learned from dogs. The more you talk, the less they listen. It's the same with children too. So they learn to drown out your voice as white noise. But I was saying I have this allergy to repetition, but I know how important it is. I have an allergy to repetition because I like the novelty of trying to explain something to someone in different terms. But we can just start at the bottom. I tell people I teach a cross-paradigmatic grammars that affords for the ability to adjudicate disputes between peoples with differing value hierarchies. That just means if your perception differs from other people's perception, we offer a grammars that afford you to communicate with people whose perceptions differ. We differ across every type of, I'll use the term familial group, because we have cognitive peers, that's a family, right? You have work peers, that's a family. So across all these groups, we have different perspectives and different fields we use to calculate futures for ourselves. When you alter your perceptions, meaning you change the frame it is you're using to approach this place, your intuition, valuation, and prediction change. They change. That means you can change your field of opportunities in the future by changing how you look at the present currently. The Buddhists know this, right? But we don't teach it to anyone. Anyone heard that explained like that before? No, because people aren't teaching you science. They're teaching you compliance. That's what Luke gets across. I play first follower a lot. All these people giving presentations, I'm the one who knows their work best. And it's not close. It's them, then me, then other people. I take the time to do that. And the funny thing is, it's not just these people in this room. Anyone who has a big brain, who opens up their mouth for public consumption, I know their work better than anyone but them, because I make it my job to do that. I don't want to do this job for a long time. I don't want to look at screens. I want to play with my children. But I can't play with my children and not think about what's going on in the world, because I have to... Thank you. Okay. I have to think about what's going on in the world, because we're the only people that see the patterns of persistence, and we see them trending in the wrong direction. We have to retool our policies to bolster persistence. What I'd like to get across to people, I wrote down a series. A lot of people talk about having a belief in something. During the pandemic, they were actually asking you to have faith in your government. There was no justification for it. You actually had to have faith in them, that they would do the right thing. We talk about trust a lot and cooperation, but you don't need our trust. You can have confidence that we are correct. It's a near certainty.
Oh, I see.
There's too many of us that have converged on the same understanding of this place. It's the same all the way down. These are the disagreeable people that exist. The other ones are looking for association. I don't want association with people. I have enough association with people. I use all the rhetoric online that I use, and I have a lot of the people here know me because they know me from online. I use all of it to filter people out, not to include them. The only thing good about exclusion is exclusivity. So I don't understand why everyone who's arguing for you to include everyone is ruining the only thing that inclusion is good for, to exclude other people that you're not including. There's a fundamental frame shift that has to happen, and that happens by people altering their behaviors, because these type of monkeys, they imitate. That's their first. It's so hilarious.
Oh my God! Did you set that up, or is that just?
Oh, Jesus Christ. We're supposed to do what one another can't, right? When you see there's a failure, you're supposed to fill in the hole. We are transcendent cooperative agents. Noah asked me when we were talking like what I do for a job. I do the job that other people aren't doing until someone else does it good enough that I can stop.
Yeah.
And then I stop. So
That's the only person you ever want in charge. The guy that says, I'm in charge because nobody else is willing to do the hard work as well as I am.
I think they called me president as a joke.
No, it's because you're the boss.
There will be people who argue against our positions. None of them have a case, and I can say that with near certainty. If you can't make the case for what you're doing from demonstrated reality forward, you don't have a case. If you have to appeal to some authority that is elsewhere, you don't have a case. All the evidence for you needing to persuade anyone to do anything exists in the real at all times, and if you don't see it or aren't privy to it, you will make a bad decision. It's what happens. You're going to find a lot of people are turning into philosophers because it's a way to keep their asses in a seat and do this at you and take your money from you. Philosophy is for justifying your position, yes, or making excuses like a child,
yes,
and that's it. There's no other reason for it. We're rhetoricians, logicians, and lawbringers. We're not people who talk at one another to get things done, because we know that's not how you get anything done. A lot of the activist work that I do is in moving around the particular groups that deal in activism in the local spaces. And what typically happens is after they get a win or two, it devolves into a social group, which is what most of your governance has devolved into, especially at the local level. The way to ferret all of these people out is if they're not focusing on bolstering the family and children, they don't belong in their position.
That's right.
You are all asking whether or not this is a viable way through the chaos. It's the only way through. So you can navigate this path, as dangerous as it is, or you cannot. But if you don't, we won't win. And that's not up for debate. We just won't.
Because we're the problem is one of the things that's implied in what you're saying is you actually know what every thought group is doing, right?
Yes.
Right? And you know their friend. I know because I basically, who do you think I asked for the research? But the thing is, we're not arrogant when we say there's nobody else.
We say it with sadness.
It's
We
disappointing.
wish that someone else had
Yeah,
got it.
exactly.
I look
There's
for
nothing
them.
else. Well,
I'll look for them. They're collected. It's not like you guys are my friends from high school. They came from all around the world. These people came from all around the world to be here to really talk to each other, and we've invited other people. This is the move from theory to practice.
that's right.
We're here to say that we're done telling people what we think. What we think is science works, and we should apply it everywhere. And where you're not, you're choosing not to now. We have
That's
a...
brilliant. Wait a minute. I want to reinforce that if I can.
Sure.
Is that so? What you're saying is it's one thing to not enforce it when we don't know the answer or we don't have the option. But once you have the option, if you don't pursue it, then you're okay. Very smart.
That's how we hold people accountable. I hate what the pandemic did to people because it proved how weak-willed they were, right? And how yellow-bellied they are when they're put under pressure. But nobody who held a position of authority during that pandemic has a reason to hold it any longer. Zero reasons. So you can pursue every one of them. You can pursue them like they're criminals because they are. It's demonstrated. This is not... We don't compromise. I don't compromise. And I'm not a PG either. I say compromise is cooperation's retarded cousin. Because it is. I'm not going to give something up and you give something up so we can pretend we're doing other people's work. That's ridiculous.
Lose-lose.
I don't understand why people settle for them anymore. That could bring us right to the arena we're working in. Politics is a pipeline, meaning you're liberal when you're young and then you get conservative when you get older. That's just what happens.
When you have no responsibilities and when you do.
So it doesn't matter what most people think in that field because they're begging for things they can't produce for themselves. These are the capable people. If you are a capable person, you pull your resources from the redistributive system that we have currently, because it's well within the law to do so. It's lawful to do so. In fact, I make the case that what we're proposing it's not just a moral duty or it's a moral obligation, meaning not doing it carries a cost. Meaning waiting as long as we have. Waiting as long as we have and waiting longer makes it harder on us to get done what we need to get done.
Not our children.
I do not want to pass this to my children, not even a little bit. Most of these people are fathers here in the front row, and we've heard fathers talk. This snuck up on a lot of people because they started where you don't look, because it's below your professional involvement. It's below your perceptual thresholds to see. The previous generation, they traded work ethic for morality. The older generation, it's ethical to it's ethical to pursue what's moral, and it's not a question of whether or not it is. Right? We measure capital across all market across all market arenas. It means we're keeping track of things that most people don't. And we spent down most capital trading it for money that they're printing out of thin air. We can't afford that.
hurt.
Yeah, because you can't afford it. We can't afford it. It hurts everybody. We can take back all the capital that they're not measuring in dollars right away. You just build trust with the people around you. You have something more than they got, then you go after them for everything that they've got. And what are they going to do? Buy someone off? They're going to purchase mercenaries. This is our country, for, of, and by the people. And the people are always making the case that the government will do something tyrannical if they stand up. Doesn't that mean you've got to stand up? Tyranny isn't rule. It's not. Philosophers are tyrannical. They tell you why you got to do something. It's just the way that it is. You don't want philosopher kings. Right? You want actual kings. It matters. Or you don't want them convincing you that they're the best. They demonstrate it. We can usher in that generation of kings. It's not a chore. It is not a chore. You focus them like Noah says, right? You do the work that Luke and his family are doing. You actually create a more robust generation than the one before, instead of using the lack of robustness and resilience as an older generation to ridicule the ones under you. Because you have a generational family too. They are also at war between all of them. So good rule isn't tyrannical, it's symphonic. People who know what they're doing. Men and women are supposed to be in concert, not in conflict.
That's right.
Thank you. I'll end so people can ask a couple of questions, but we can move slower. We can move slower. We can live slower, more slowly, and enjoy this place like the people who feel would like to, and adapt faster at the same time. There's nothing stopping us from doing that other than adopting the law. That's it.
Wow.
I use shortcuts to reason with these people because they're too smart to reason with on their own terms. The answer is install the law all the time. If there's a question, the answer is install the law. If it's not that, meaning if what's happening is lawful, you don't have a business messing with it. Leave it alone. There's one law. It's reciprocity. It has 5 criteria. Voluntary, fully informed, productive, warranted, and free from the costs upon the demonstrated interests of others. You can moderate that yourself. The law is something you can take into your own hands. That's what petrifies people about what we're telling them. We give people the permission to decide. I am offering moral licenses up to men like they are candy. You want some? Come and get them. Because we're giving them out. You have the right to re-equilibrate your locality. And if you don't, you are oppressed. And you have to. So I don't exactly know how to cope with the profundity that we've come across. And this is the best I've got. So if you've got questions for me, I'm here to answer them.
Well done. Well done.
Yes, Noah?
What I want to do is just reinforce the point you made that the laws of human cooperation apply first within the family. And
Yes.
until we apply them within the family, we have very little business trying to apply them to any greater polity.
Well, I mean, you can't, we're not generating people who understand it otherwise. That's the family is how we make people who do it, right?
The only way we can make people, you don't have to take serious people who aren't taking serious this place. That's what all the children would convince you of, that they're that their needs are actually important. They don't know what they need. That's why they're in school. That's why we call them children. That's why we cast them out to be cared for by others. Can you not hear me? Sorry.
Just a little loud. More Brandon.
Infantilization is the problem that people are looking at. It shouldn't exist anywhere. Infantilizing your kids harms them.
That's right.
It's a harm. Meaning it's unlawful to do it.
It's a form of crippling them.
It is. And what you talked about earlier, you're not only hurting your kids, you're stealing from the commons because you're creating a product, children, that are now a harm to the commons itself.
Yes.
So you're harming them, and they're harming the commons.
If people only understood how much worse it is than they think, they might do something about it. I talk to all very smart people. I ignore most people because they don't have any idea what's going on because they are children.
You're more arrogant than I am.
I am. I'm more angry than ever.
He's unapologetic, though.
I'm not sorry. You should all be angry. That's why I bring anger to the table because you should be. They put masks on your fucking kids in school, day after day after day after day after. That's not abuse anymore. You know that if you differentiate between abuse and torture, that falls into the torture line. So I don't know how it's tolerable for the people that exist. That's what makes me nervous. They all tolerated it for this many years in a row, and now the people who perpetrated it are trying to tell you that, oh, our bad, just forgive us, we didn't know.
Some of the toddlers were stunted in their sociability skills. They can't even speak.
They crushed children that were, the younger you are, the more important the development. So the larger the trauma, the younger you are, the more harm it does to your being in time. So
because I know I'm on the wrong side of this, most of you. But I understand like a pacifier. I understand because that's what the masks really were. They were a pacifier. But that would be fine if it was voluntary.
yeah.
It would have been fine. The problem is you fire people for not doing them, not taking those. They're just pacifiers.
Sure.
That's all. They don't have any scientific value. And I love it when people argue with me. It's like you're not smart enough to argue with me.
Don't argue with them, Curt.
But Curt, if you don't wear your pacifier, my pacifier doesn't work.
Oh my God. And so you look at this stuff and you go, well, there's no evidence this really does. I mean, the real answer is don't touch this shit and then touch your face, right?
Sure, but we were all underprepared. A lot of people know me because I got fired because I wouldn't make kids wear masks while they were wrestling, both in practice and participating, and that I run through the reasons why when I prosecuted the superintendent on a video, right, for being an idiot, because he's an idiot. But I still lost my job. Mm-hmm. I didn't see any lawyers step up and go, hey, I'll take your case. I'm missing that. So it's not like they're losing. They give most people permissions. I was lucky that...
We had the same thing with what's your name?
Mark.
Yeah,
Mark last night? Last night.
it's the same thing. His is worse. It was his job to bring up that those tests, masks, and shots could harm our military members, and when he did, which was his area of expertise and his job title, he was fired. Discharged. So, no, what is going on around us is not tolerable, and the fact that anyone tolerates it and remains sane confuses me. And we should stop that right away.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Russ, this is a more troubling question for me than it is for most of you, right? I don't know what the hell that means. Again, I would say, well, if you want to give masks as a pacifier and it's voluntary, I'm okay with that. I'm even okay with the freaking shots if you want to be pacified by it. But you just can't have the negative. Am I wrong in that understanding?
No advertising, no mandates,
Yeah.
no recommending it, no authorities saying you gotta.
Right.
Then no, but that's just knowing that There's no difference between what you're saying and masks exist. You can use them for these functions. There's no need to advertise it or anything like
I
that.
don't see a problem with people. Again, I'm sorry if I'm pushing this. If you want me to shut up, I will.
Well, I want to know what your point is because I don't get
I
it.
want to know. So if I were there, and I'm your average. I'm not your average idiot, but if I was your average idiot in the school system, and somebody told me this stuff, and I don't know, and I want to prevent risk, I might say we recommend this, even though we don't know.
Sure.
And I think that's fine.
You can absolutely say you don't know.
Right.
But guess what? We teach the science of decidability.
Right.
And you do know. They do know. Because it's not that hard. And if you're in a position of authority, you should be applying the law. And if you're not...
Well, but what are you saying, though? I don't understand.
What I'm saying is you can't hold people accountable who are just...
That's right.
But you shouldn't be giving them responsibility. So whoever gave them the responsibility should be being held accountable for putting someone
Right, but I mean,
unable to do their
okay,
job
let
in
me
their
try again.
space.
I want to make sure I understand this. So if I'm a school administrator, I actually can't know. I mean, I can know because it's like what I do. Right? I try to figure out who's lying about whatever, and most of the time it is. So when they came out with this stuff, I'm like, that's not true. There's no way that's true. And so when you can tell it from the first day that it came out right onward. We knew that stuff before it even started. We knew this, the mask.
The swine flu in 2003
Yeah.
had cases go to court because businesses tried to make people
Right.
wear masks,
And
and they were
we-
made to pay fines
Right.
because
We-
masks
that's what
don't
I'm saying.
work. We knew.
Ahead,
We
right?
knew.
But does that mean a school administrator knows? And so, I mean, the point I'm trying to get to is, can't he say we recommend this, even though we don't know?
He can recommend it personally.
Yes.
Sure.
Okay.
Without-
That's all I'm trying to
without
do.
penalty.
In his official capacity, though, the first thing whenever you're dealing with public health is do no harm.
Yeah, but it's not
And
clear.
if you
masks
don't
do
know, means you don't.
No, if you
go
say
forward.
I don't know, but I mean, it's a prophylactic and worse, right? I mean, so I just don't understand, my problem with this is, what's the line that we're trying to say? And I'm kind of monopolizing it a lot.
Well, I already talked. Now it's questions.
I just don't, to me, it's like, well, I have no problem with people saying, I don't freaking know, but if it's not gonna hurt anybody, let's do it.
It hurt the kids.
So
Developmental delay.
okay, so that's the part I was not getting. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm slow.
Short bus.
Here's the thing. Even if masks were effective against, we'll do a little exercise. Even if masks were effective against the virus and kept you from getting them, I don't know, the psychological damage and the setbacks it does when you can't see people's facial expressions and working with one another might be more damaging than just getting the disease as it was.
I
So
have to worry about the liabilities. That's all I was trying to figure out. So the point is that it did have negative consequences.
it absolutely did.
All right.
Well, all the data. Hey, just so everyone knows, these cases are closed. All the data is out now. The pandemic happened, and everyone is worse across every metric that you can measure, without fail. It was the largest wealth heist in history, and it was a totalitarian show, right? They told you all to wear masks. It wasn't because they worked. It was because you were voluntarily complying with orders.
Okay. I'm sorry. I caused overemphasis on the subject.
No, that's good.
But to drill it further at home, like one of the reasons why these people are unqualified for leadership is because when was the last time any of them had any concern for the psychological well-being of the citizen?
Sure. Well, they're purposely manipulating you so that you are more dependent on them.
No, their thinking is always understand your enemy from their most optimistic position from them. In their world, they're protecting people. They're wrong. They're neurotic, but in their world they are. So the problem isn't that we should expect them to be different.
Their intentions don't matter under the law.
Right, no, I know that. I'm trying to get to that point.
All right.
But who's the only people that can be responsible then? Us. Right. That's what
I'm making the case for it.
Right. That's the argument that I wanted to see if we were getting to. Thank you.
You got it. Anyone else have questions? All right. Who's after me? I'll introduce him.